We'll start with a brief grounding meditation, and the purpose of the meditation is just to get us reoriented and connected with the frequency of Mother Earth. And we'll just gently tap into the various different lower chakras in order to get a sense individually as to how we are feeling and what we intuit from that information in the brief meditation. From there, we'll go in and we'll talk about what chakras are. And please understand that I know many of you have years in history of understanding and preconceived notions as to what chakras are. Tonight, you may hear things with just a little bit of a spin. So I invite you to listen to the information from an expanded standpoint so that it might just stretch your belief system a little bit. We'll talk about the anatomy and the locations, and then I'll break down the individual chakras, and I'll talk about the specifics of everything from the central focus, the body parts, the correlated nervous system, also talking about the endocrine system, and talking about the emotional responses that potentially could get triggered in an excess or a deficiency in any of these chakras. I typically pause at the end of every chakra explanation and ask if anybody has stories that they want to share that are specific to that chakra. If not, I have humbling experiences of my own that I can share, and with, from experiences of witnessing my clients as well. Then after we get through the lower three, then we'll take a brief break, 5 minutes if we have enough time. And then we'll come back and do an exercise, happiness swings, I call them. And then we'll move up to chakras 4 all the way up to 7. Again, with some interaction. And then we'll just hopefully have a few minutes at the end if you have any specific questions. Sound like a plan, a thumbs up, a hands up, or everything's online? Okay, good. All right, let's start with the meditation. And it's just going to be a brief meditation, but I invite you to remove your glasses, as you won't need any external vision during this time, just an opportunity to reflect inward. And if you do, if you can position yourself to where your feet are firmly planted on the ground, that would be greatly appreciated. Let's begin by taking a nice deep breath in through our nose, followed by an audible exhale. Deep breath in and out. One more in and out. I invite you to begin by bringing your awareness to your chest. Just begin to watch and observe the rise and the fall of your chest. There's nothing to do, no judgment, just an observation. While we give our body a moment to slow down, I'd like to do a brief exercise to capture some of your essence. I invite you to picture a rather large butterfly net. And the net is made out of finely woven gold. This butterfly net has the capacity to reach through the linear time frame. Let's just take it through the last week. And wave the magic, beautiful butterfly net in capturing the essence of any communication, spoken or unspoken, that you've had with other people, email correspondence, social media, news. Sweep through any locations, any dreams, any thoughts, looping thoughts, positive or negative. And as we sweep this butterfly net, set the intention that you'll be able to let everything else filter through the golden filter, and what remains are fragments and pieces of your essence. And I invite you to take this butterfly net and place it outside above your head, about 3 feet. And just envision that all of this beautiful essence that is yours begins to filter down through the auric layers, the subtle energy field that surrounds all physical bodies. And it filters down through the various layers and enters in the top of the cranium and top of the head. And as we allow this energy to filter through each and every chakra, it gently cascades down through our head, into our throat, through the shoulders, chest, upper abdomen, lower abdomen, and pelvic bowl. All the way through the butt, thighs, knees, ankles, feet. Returning all of your original essence back down to Mother Earth as she is prepared and lovingly receives any and all energy as she recycles and sends back up. And set the intention to open your feet chakras 100%, as well as your hand chakras. As we open our feet chakras, I invite you to allow the Mother Earth's energy, the pulse of Gaia at 7.8 hertz, to begin to allow it to filter up through the feet, the calves, knees, and pelvis. Just take a moment to observe the space and the lower part of your abdomen and your pelvic bowl in the first chakra. And just notice, is it open? Is it closed? Is it spinning? Allow the information and the energy of Mother Earth to rise into the second chakra, just above the first and below the navel. And notice as you put your awareness and your intention into the area of the second chakra, do you notice any feelings, any thoughts? Again, no judgment, just observe. As we rise and bring the energy up into the space of the solar plexus or the third chakra in the upper abdomen, place your attention and observe, looking for any tightness, physical discomfort, any areas of expansion. Notice if any people or organizations come to mind. Allow the information to climb higher into your fourth chakra, right into the chest. Set the intention to open compassion. And notice, are you comfortable? Do you feel any restriction? Does it feel larger than the other chakras? Allowing Mother Earth's energy to rise even further into the neck, into the throat chakra. And from your mind's eye and your awareness, pay attention to the subtle energy surrounding the entire neck and the front, side, and the back. Any words, any ideas, any creativity, any projects come to mind? Allow Mother Earth's energy to rise up into the space of the forehead, into the third eye, the sixth chakra. And what do you see? Allowing the energy to spill out through the seventh chakra. And just take a moment to imagine a pearlescent gold rain shower, that beautiful mist that we experienced today here in the Pacific Northwest. And just imagine that rain shower, that pearlescent, cleansing gold color, to shower through the entire auric field, the entire chakra system, and allow it to return back down to Mother Earth. When the time feels right, go ahead and open your eyes and bring your awareness back into the space that we're sharing tonight. Just a gentle reminder, if you need to put your glasses back on. How's everybody doing? Better? Okay. Okay. Is anybody feeling more agitated? Okay. All right. Very good. Let's start tonight by talking about what chakras are. And in front of you, I could go back to the basics of talking about chakras are just essentially in Sanskrit known as wheels, and they're subtle energies of vortices found within all over the body. But for tonight's purpose, we're going to be talking about the 7 main chakras. But really what I would like to invite for you this evening, for the time that we're spending together, begin to envision that chakras are essentially various layers of consciousness. So the lower 3 levels are lower areas of consciousness. The 4th becomes a transitional area in which it leads into higher levels of consciousness from the 5th, 6th, and the 7th. And within each of these energy centers, there's going to be an emission of light or photons of color. It's not going to be that perfect red, orange, yellow, it's not going to be the perfect colors. It's going to be a blend of energies and vibration of light. That beautiful rainbow, as Deb saw earlier today, that almost turned into a double rainbow. You see that each color blends into the next color, to the next color. So it is just essentially photons of color. Each chakra has its own frequency, and with that frequency comes information that becomes vital to all of us as individuals and to our health. Each chakra is associated with an endocrine gland, and an endocrine gland is supported by a bundle of nerves. Those bundle of nerves travel through the peripheral nervous system into the spinal cord, into the central nervous system, and goes all the way up into the brain. So within every activation of each chakra, you're going to see hormones are released. There will be various tissues will respond. Chemicals change. The cells change. And within each cell, you're going to have an expression of cellular memory, karmic memory, universal memory. All of this is stored at the tiniest level of the cell, and it can come into full expression if the energy can get through the chakra system, through the glands, into the central nervous system, into the cells of the body. And all of this activation emits energy. I used to think that chakras would get blocked or cloudy or congested. And what I realized over time is that that's a way to describe density, something that has mass. And really, when it comes to the chakra system, we're dealing with an electromagnetic current. So we all have the wiring to have full expression from an electromagnetic standpoint. It's just whether or not it's activated. It's whether or not the light has been turned on. So within the chakra system, you're going to find that it connects into a greater quantum field that surrounds all of us. And it also connects in and is protected by the aura surrounding the physical body. The chakra system can be regulated by the intention, by our thought, where we place our energy. So we do have within our control the ability to be able to regulate the chakra system. That's what gets me, that's just the beauty of tapping into the various different systems. It's just incredibly beautiful how it all connects and how it is a unified field, and you can't just look at one and affect and anticipate to make change in one chakra without seeing the cascading changes in all the chakras above and below. So when we look at the chakra anatomy, I would like for you, first and foremost, the credit of these diagrams goes to another female chiropractor, Dr. Sue Wooder. She has a book out called Energy Codes, and I love these diagrams for a couple of specific reasons, and I'll talk my way through that. If you look at the diagram on the left-hand side, you will see the auric field surrounding that human body. So that auric field can be anything from about 18 inches to approximately 3 feet, depending upon how expanded you want to be. So for example, when I hike in the forest, I want my aura to be as big as possible to soak up as much of the energy as I can, and I want to be open to what Mother Earth has to offer. When I walk into an airport, I pull my chakras as close as I possibly can because I don't want the lingering energy that hangs out in airports. So we have control over the expansion of our auric system that surrounds us. And it does play into the emotional body, into the mental body, and it plays into the chakra systems as well with the various different layers. And you can see the various chakras as they are represented, the 7 lower ones. You can see as they are positioned within the human body. You can see that beautiful rainbow color as it ascends up through the body. So you can see the relationship of the chakras as we see, as we know it today. The image on the right-hand side of the screen shows us the quantum field, the electromagnetic field that surrounds all of us. And when we look at that, we look at the central channel. It looks like a donut. So we look and envision as the central channel being hollow, and that has been scientifically proven to be and to carry a negative charge as it connects into the positive charge that surrounds us. So in theory, they say that the energy is coming through and bombards us as we enter in as a spirit into our physical body. We enter in through the 7th, and provided that we're allowing the space for full embodiment, the energy can come straight down, bounce back off of Mother Earth, and then it comes back up and it starts this thing that goes around us. So this is always, always surrounding us. However, if we have distortion or areas of our chakra system or our electromagnetic circuitry is not activated, we can get distortion, right to left, front to back. And it throws off that beautiful geometric design that surrounds all of us. Deb, was that a question? No? Okay. Thought I saw a question. So we have this quantum field surrounding us, the auric system. Then what's beautiful is that we also have a separate toric field that comes out from the heart as well. So the ability to be able to connect in a loving state with universal consciousness is available for all of us, provided that we have a heart coherence and that we can connect into that vibration. So that's the diagram that surrounds us, the energy that surrounds us. Now, let's talk about the chakras. And I have to share with you that I am using household everyday items to demonstrate my technical chakras. So my first is a funnel. And the funnel itself, you can see, I specifically chose this funnel. It's about 3 inches in diameter. And the size of the chakra is about 3 inches, about an inch away from the physical body. So that's about the size of the chakra. Now remember that energy is coming in through the auric field and can go straight into the chakra. It's also going to start creating a spin, a vortice. Okay, so once we have this going, we have the locations of the individual chakras. We are talking, for the sake of this evening's conversation, about the 7 lower chakras. So the first chakra, the root chakra, is located just, it's below the belly button, just on top of the pubic symphysis, and in the back, it connects with the coccyx or the sacrum. The second one is below the belly button, about an inch, inch and a half below the belly button. The third is below the tip of the sternum, the breastbone. The fourth is going to be midline of the sternum. The fifth is going to be about the lower cervical spine, right on top of the thyroid, in front of the fifth cervical vertebra. The sixth is going to be in the center, and then the seventh is on top. Now, going back to the concept and the notion that I suggested that we entertain this evening is that these chakras represent levels of consciousness. And depending upon what religion, depending upon the view or the lens in which people are looking at chakras, you will hear that there are various different petals, or there are individual chakras or vortices within the chakra. So imagine that this is the first chakra. There's going to be 2 more of these vortices inside. And the energy that is produced from this is synergistic. So it means that the summation is greater than the equal parts. So all of these are spinning, and when they work together and it's all functioning, it works and creates and generates more energy than if it was just one individual funnel. So if there's 2 or 4 or 6 or 8, or extrapolate up into 16, or eventually 900 as you get up into the higher realms, that's how we can surmise and suggest that we look at these chakras as levels of consciousness. The lower 3 bodies, lower levels of consciousness, relate to the physical body. The heart is a transitional area, has its own toric field, connects us into that heart resonance. And then the 5th, 6th, and 7th are known to be higher levels of consciousness. There are times that you will see various different practitioners say, okay, well, how do you diagnose a chakra? And they use pendulums. They take something like a necklace, something on a string, and they watch. They watch the movement of the chakra on top of this energy center, and they start to, based upon the movement, that's how they make their diagnosis. I guess the main thing is that I want to emphasize is that there is a direction that we hope and aspire that the electromagnetic current runs, because we operate based on polarity. And if we were to take our right hand and we take our right thumb and we put it in any chakra, it doesn't matter if it's the first all the way up to the seventh. And then if you curl your fingers, the direction in which your fingers curl is the way that the chakra should spin. So if you put it in the center of your chest and you take your right hand, thumb in the center of the chest, curl your fingers, rotate the hand, that's essentially the way that you're going to want to envision your chakras to spin. Same is true. It's all the same. Same is true for the back side. So essentially, imagine somebody is standing behind you, they put their right hand, same thing. They hypothesize that the opposite is true. In the southern hemisphere, you just take the left hand and do that. So those are various different spins. Now, the next demonstration I cannot take credit for. I first saw this when I was at the academy, and Dr. Francesca McCartney used this diagram, parts of this diagram, in order to explain the openness or the aperture of a chakra. And I thought it was absolutely clever and brilliant, so I thought I would share it with you today. You keep hearing me say, okay, well, there's a vertical channel. So my paper towel tube is hollow, and it's going to be represented in midline. The chakra connects into the midline, right? And the chakra's job is to receive information, to integrate it, to store it, and then to express it. For years, and I used to be a bit embarrassed to admit this, but this was what I had in my mind, that in order to be a highly functional, intuitive person, that I needed to intend that my chakras were open at 100%, 100% of the time. And I learned the hard way that as a sensitive individual, and just as all of you are sensitive, that is a recipe for making you feel absolutely wackadoodle. So I do not advise that. It is too much information for a person to process. And so that's where learning how to self-regulate your chakras becomes so vitally important for your health. And this is where Francesca came in, and she uses, it's just a vegetable steamer, right? And it kind of looks and it operates the same way that a camera aperture would operate. If you're open 100%, it's going to look like so. And this would be approximately open 50%. And it would be approximately 10%. So you can set the intention and say, oh, wow, okay, I'm sitting at a family dinner and I'm sitting across from somebody who's very opinionated and very toxic. And so you say, okay, dial down my second chakra. Because quite honestly, I don't want that vibration. You could be having a romantic dinner with a loved one, and you want to connect heart to heart, and you want to feel compassion and love. So you begin to open up the heart space. Maybe you're giving a presentation in front of a group of people. Then you set the intention for your throat chakra to be open. So you get the gist. You have the ability to dial open or to dial down various different chakras accordingly. Even in a meditation, I meditate twice every day just to ground myself and to release any discordant energy that's no longer mine. But when I get done with my meditation, just a simple affirmation is that, okay, now I set my chakras, now my chakras will calibrate for everyday life. So when I walk into the grocery store, then I know that I'm protected and that I'm not feeling everybody else's energy. And I know that if you're involved with ions on some level, that you have an awareness and that you are a highly sensitive individual, and that you pick up other people's energy. So I'm sharing this with you as a self-preservation tool. Okay. Now, before I move on from here and start diving into the chakra system itself, does anybody have any thoughts, questions, like clarification or anything? I got a double thumbs up from Ron. Everybody else okay? Good. Okay. The first chakra. The first chakra is associated with, we talked about the location being at the base of the spine. It is the chakra that is closest to Mother Earth. And so the element is earth. The primary responsibility or the central focus of the first chakra is going to be all about survival. Survival and safety. So think of survival not only as just your individual personal survival, but your family unit's survival, your tribe's survival, whatever tribe you associate with, whether it be at work, whether it be within your neighborhood, whether it be various organizations that you belong to, whether it be even bigger in a cultural tribe that you pick up belief systems from. All of this information gets stored within the first chakra. The endocrine gland that is most associated with the first chakra is the adrenal gland. The adrenal glands are small little glands that sit on top of the kidneys. They respond when it's fight or flight. And unfortunately, due to the drive of the American population or the general population, there are many people that drive on a sympathetic overdrive and they max out their adrenal system. And that causes a whole series of cascading events. But for this specific conversation, think about adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Those are the hormones that get triggered when there is activation of excess or deficiency within the first chakra. The nerve plexus that is most associated with the first chakra will be the sacral plexus, the nerves that come out of the sacrum. The sacrum is the broad triangular bone at the base of your spine. And those nerves, including a couple of the lower lumbars, are what control the butt, thighs, knees, ankles, and feet. So when I talk about physical symptoms, plantar fasciitis of the feet, gout, rheumatoid arthritis of the knees, hip issues, sciatic issues, those types of physical symptoms directly correlate with the first chakra. Also, I will say that depression is also connected into the first chakra. And then also because of the T cell production of the sacrum itself, you will find that the autoimmune diseases fall underneath this category. Your autoimmune diseases of fibromyalgia, celiac disease, lupus, all those various different there's more autoimmune disorders. It also regulates viruses. So in today, March 2021, what virus are we talking about? COVID. COVID has rocked the globe's first chakra. Absolutely rocked everybody's security. Everybody's personal security, financial security, job security. It just really has created a lot of fear amongst various different people, countries, all over this pandemic. Let's see. When we talk about the neuro-emotional response that you see within the first chakra, we're talking about perhaps our emotional placement within a family. So when you go through transitions of life, like we all do, and you lose your mother and your father, then your identity within the family shifts. Or if you lose people younger, it just shifts constantly. We're talking about the physical survival, abandonment from groups, the ability to provide for life's necessities. Those are all neuro-emotional responses that can be triggered from the first chakra. Now, I just shared a big example of the first chakra, and I'm talking about the coronavirus. But does anybody else have an experience with the first chakra or physical symptoms that are associated, body part regions, anything that they want to talk about when it comes to the first chakra? I promise this is a very loving group. I know you all, I did connect with your essences when you were talking. So feel free to share. Safe environment. Okay. Let's move on then into the second chakra. The second chakra can be known as the sacral or the navel area as it relates to water, the element water, and it connects in to the emotional body. It is the central focus are your greatest desires. So desires not only of a sexual orientation, but from desires of a creativity, desires of how you want to show up in alignment with your life's purpose. So the second chakra is all about desires. When we think of the associated endocrine gland, it will be primarily for women, the ovaries; for men, it will be the testes. So think about the hormones that are associated with those body regions, and those are the chemical components of that second chakra. The nerves from the low back or the lumbar spine are what pick up this information from these organs and transfers into its own little highway of nerves, but ultimately the information reaches up through the central nervous system up into the brain. So as you process information in the second chakra in dealing with the body parts and the regions of the reproductive system, the large intestine, talking about kidney and bladder issues. So those show up in the second chakra. The one thing that I want to talk about is clairsentience. And I know all of you are clairsentient on some level, whether you pick up emotions from other people or other things or in rooms, in large environments. Clairsentience is just an intuitive way of picking up other people's energies or emotions. Many times, when I am diagnosing chakras on clients, I will see, especially if they're in the healing arts, if they are in helping professions, then I find that their second chakra is way, way, way too open. And when that happens, it compromises that person. I know their intention is to help and to heal and to support, but what happens when it's in that expanded state, other people's energy can come in and filtrate in through the chakra system and compromise the cells, the storage, and your ability to be able to express your deepest desires. So it's a very important chakra to protect and to calibrate. So I bring that to your awareness. Does anybody have any stories? I've got a story if nobody wants to share about the second chakra. Okay. The second chakra is, if you think about the development as we are young kids, we learn how to survive within our small little tribe, and that's our family. And many times as small people, we are looking to the big people to see if they're happy. And if they're not happy, then as a small person, we're going to do whatever it takes in order to make everyone happy. So, for example, I don't think I mentioned it, but in my written bio, I was born hearing impaired and did not know until I was 3 years old. I was not diagnosed. And I literally, my father was also an alcoholic. So I couldn't hear my father enter the home, but I could feel him when he entered the home. I could feel him, and I could feel the energy shift amongst my two sisters and my mom. So as a survival mechanism, that's how I became such a good clairsentient. It was a survival mechanism. And so then, as follow me 20 years down the road, 25 years down the road, then I became really good at sensing people when they came into my practice. And when I put my hands on people, I could physically read and sense where the tension, where the problems, what the issue was. And I was so committed to being good at what I was doing that I did everything within my power to heal these people. And at the end of the night, I would come home completely exhausted and not be able to complete a sentence. That is a painful example of an overextended second chakra. So it has taken me a lot of healing to clear out all that junk, get rid of everybody else's energy, and to recalibrate so that I have a clean second chakra. And now I'm just now beginning to connect in with some of the deepest desires and, like, seriously, what am I here to do? So I encourage all of you go through the gunk to get down to the beautiful stuff. That's the second chakra. Okay, let's talk about the third chakra. The third chakra is known as the solar plexus, and is associated with the element of fire. It's right underneath the tip of the sternum, the soft part of the belly. And its central focus is around vitality and the sense of power. So, and I know all of you have had experience where you consciously or unconsciously just gave your power away to people, places, things, environments, organizations, you name it. We just give it away. And that compromises our ability with the endocrine system, the pancreas that's associated with this. The pancreas is responsible for the blood sugar regulation. So it affects the entire digestion, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the spleen, the small intestines. Everything gets wrapped up into the third chakra. So the physical symptoms that one may express, you could have an acute pancreatitis. You could have be diagnosed with diabetes. You could have a cirrhosis of the liver, pathology of the liver, gallstones, gallbladder issues. You could have the inability to fight infection from the spleen. All of these organs are physical symptoms associated with this. With the neuroemotional component, you could see a lack of creativity, or perhaps somebody becomes excessively sensitive to criticism or suggestions and they become super defensive. Perhaps you may have eating disorders, and anorexia, bulimia, self-esteem issues. Those are emotional responses to a compromised third chakra. I'm looking around to see if anybody has questions, examples, life experiences in how it relates to the third chakra. Everybody good? Okay. I see double thumbs up, so thank you for that, Daniel. Why don't we do this? I'm looking just because I know it's a long time to sit in attention. I know well enough. So let's take a brief 5-minute stretch break. Let's get some water, use the bathroom, come back, and then I'm going to show you my happiness swing. So 5 minutes, I'm looking at my clock and it is 20 after 8. So if we could be back here at 25 after 8, that'll just give us a time to shake it up a little bit. Okay. How are we doing? A few more minutes.
Looks like what we have 1 more minute.
Yeah. Gives me an opportunity to check out everybody's frequency as I get closer and closer to the camera. All right, looks like the majority of us are back. We're checking in. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen here, and we're moving on to one of my favorite chakras, and also can be a challenging chakra too as well, and that is the fourth chakra. The fourth chakra is located in the chest and in the heart. It is the element associated is the air. The central focus is love, but love for others, but also love for yourself. So compassion for others and compassion for yourself. And I don't know about you, but there can be a difference, meaning it's easier to love other people and harder to love ourselves, or sometimes it's harder to express love to our family, but we can express love to everybody that's in the grocery store. You know, it's kind of an interesting, it's an interesting chakra that way. So as we talk about the chakra, know that the endocrine system is the thymus gland. And the thymus gland is active in adolescence, right behind the sternum. And it stops functioning, if you will, or stops producing hormones by the time that you're 18. However, it can be activated by tapping, it can be activated by thumping. There's still some benefits to it as we are as an adult, but it's most active in our adolescent years. The organs that are associated with the heart space clearly are going to be the lungs, the heart itself. It can also relate to some say the shoulders, elbows, arms, and wrists, but I do believe that the shoulders, elbows, and arms comes more intimately from the neck. However, the emotional components come from the opportunity to express forgiveness and to be able to express hope and to work and to live through grief. And I will assume that everybody's had the opportunity to work through those as individuals, and you know how challenging those can be. There's no right way to grieve. There's no wrong way to forgive. There's no right way to express hope. It is to every individual. So it's important when you think about the calibration of the heart chakra is just set the intention for compassion. If you set the intention for the compassion, it could be, my comfort level could be open at 40%, and that's my comfort level. Where Dottie may have the ability to sustain a 70% open heart chakra. It's different for all people. And there's no judgment. There's no judgment at all. In fact, just seriously, last week, we were doing a lot of heart opening exercises in yoga. We were doing like mini back bends. And I got home that night and I was talking to my husband. I'm like, dear God, I have like so much pain in my heart. And I'm like, did I do something wrong? Is it a physical misalignment? Is it indigestion? What is it? Because there's so much pain in the heart. And even just those minor chest opening exercises caused an expansion that is bigger than my normal set for compassion. Did that make sense to everybody, how it's individual, and your body has a way of telling you what your comfort level is based upon the physical discomfort. There are so many different life examples that we can talk about where we literally feel heartache. whether it be an emotional, romantic relationship, and we lose that person and we go through a heartache. That's real. That is absolutely, truly real. The expansion and contraction of the heart space is physically palpable. So again, when it comes to your own chakra system, I encourage you and I invite you just to use and set the intention for compassion. Does anybody have any questions about the fourth chakra? Yes, yes, yes.
So I've been working really hard on forgiveness, and it's a difficult, very difficult one for me. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's not my strength. It's not my strength. So I'll share. So my older sister who passed away due to alcoholism and drugs. And she was brilliant and creative and beautiful and expressive. And I just could never forgive her for the choices that she made. And I can remember speaking at the celebration that we had. I said, I'm having a hard time with this forgiveness thing. I'll work my way through it. And I do. I work my way through it, and it's not pretty and it's not easy. My only suggestion that I can give to you in all honesty and in humility is to breathe through the space. Breathe through the space, and the guidance when I'm guiding my clients, I guide them to expand in diameter, and I guide them to expand because the heart chakra has its own toric field. I advise to expand to connect that out. Because that heart coherence is what connects us into the quantum field, which connects us into universal love. Are there any pieces of wisdom in that you can take away? Yeah, I know. No pun intended, but my heart goes out to you. Somebody else had their yes, please. I think that your sound is off. Let me see if I can unmute you, maybe.
Okay, did I get it?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good. I figured it out. And concerning forgiveness, there's another way to look at forgiveness, and the word is forgiving away. And what are you giving away? You're giving away the pain, the fear. You're freeing yourself up. The resentment, the anger, all of those things, you're giving those away. It isn't that you're forgiving a person for what they have done or whatever that is, but you are letting go of all of the negative feelings that are a result of that. That is forgiving. Forgiveness is for giving away all of those things so that they don't weight you down. If that helps. I learned that a long time ago.
That's sage wisdom.
Yeah. I would like to.
Thank you for sharing.
So Lynn has her hand up also. Lynn, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to add to the forgiveness piece, and that certainly appreciate what Janae said. as well as Mary. And I just want to add, there's a wonderful book. It's called Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tippin. And it's quite thick, but it's a wonderful book. I took a class on it, and so I recommend that book. It's one of the best books on forgiveness that I've read.
So Lynn, would you put that in the chat so that people can see what the book is if they'd like to?
Thank you, Lynn. Yes.
I just wanted to say one other thing concerning the heart chakra and the solar plexus. In 1997, I was studying all of Carolyn Mace's work, and it's the first that I ever knew of chakras. And I went off for 3 weeks and I studied tapes and videos and everything of her stuff. And I started doing a meditation that I based on the chakras. And as I did, I had a fibroid tumor in my uterus, which is not an unusual thing. They were watching it. It was becoming larger. In October, I'd had it checked. In December, I did I developed this meditation based on the chakras. And it occurred to me that that was the sacral area, or perhaps that is the second chakra area, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, and I connected it with the heart chakra and love. And I realized I had just come catapulting out of a relationship. And it was a total transition of my life at that point. I didn't know it quite, but it was. And I put those two together, and every time I would go through that chakra meditation, and I would connect, putting my hands on those two areas. And when I returned, it was just a couple months later, I was checked again. The tumor was totally gone.
I love those stories.
Yeah, it was amazing. And they do disappear. But I feel like I had a good hand on that.
Did I see somebody else's hand up? I thought I did, but no. Okay. Thank you for sharing, you guys. The heart space is such a special chakra. The fifth chakra, we're going to move up into the throat. No pun intended, as I clear my throat. So we know that the throat is going to be all about sound. So if there's any way that you can vocalize, chant, sing, anything that opens the sound, maybe it's ujjayi breathing in yoga, think about opening the fifth chakra as it relates to the communication of your deepest desires. There's a definite intimate connection between the second chakra and the fifth chakra when you start to tap into the true purpose, coming up through the vertical channel, out through the fifth, and communicating clearly, expressing clearly your authentic self as well as your deepest desires. The endocrine gland is associated with the thyroid. The thyroid is all about metabolizing. So how you metabolize energy, your own personal energy and the energy of others. So when we look at the organ, obviously we're looking at the entire cervical spine because so much is happening in this area, and it's the tiniest part of the body. It's like a bottleneck. So the vertebrae are smaller, but you've got highways of nerves that come out that control the shoulders, elbows, arms, and wrists. So any of those physical symptoms that you see associated with the shoulder region, or you see with the larynx and hoarseness or laryngitis, issues associated with the teeth or the gums, and interestingly enough, the ears. So all of these physical organs connect in to this special space of the fifth chakra. So I'll share a little bit about the fifth. So there is a autoimmune disorder associated with the thyroid when it's underactive, and it's called Hashimoto's. And Hashimoto's runs in my family. I have it. My middle sister has it. I believe my mother had it as well. So to make a long story short, when I left to go to Vietnam, I chose to stop all my medications. And if you go to any physician, they're going to tell you, don't mess with your thyroid medication, don't go off of it, don't do all these things. I did what you're not supposed to do. And it was at that time that I literally didn't have the day-to-day responsibilities of private practice. And I was able to work and continue through my yoga teachers and through my meditation practice. And to make a long story short, since I left the States, I haven't had a positive or an imbalanced thyroid test since. Now, I still test positive for the antibody because it's an autoimmune disorder, but I don't show any clinical signs, nor my blood tests are normal as well. Now, you need to remember, I had classic symptoms to the point where I literally broke out in cysts. I got so inflamed, I had cysts covering all through the front of my neck. Very, very unattractive, very unsightly. And I knew intellectually, you guys, but I couldn't emotionally like break whatever negative cycle I was in to be able to express this. And if it wasn't bad enough, I broke out in cyst here, then I blew a disc in my neck. Then I had numbness and tingling coming down my arm. I mean, it was a catastrophic nightmare that I created because I did not choose to look at the symptoms. I didn't choose to look at the signals. So time, intention can heal these things, provided that you're committed to the process. That's my fifth chakra story. When you think about the emotional components, and this will shed light more on this fifth chakra, but it is truly a fear of expression. It's a fear of being judged for your expression, or the fear of being judged for being authentically you. So if any of those things come up for you as individuals or any family members, I just highly, encourage you to be in a state of support and witness, and to encourage them to let go of whatever perceptions one may have and find their authenticity. Any other fifth chakra stories? I didn't intend to share so much about myself personally, so I'm going to stop talking about that because I might share too much. Okay, let's talk about the sixth chakra, my favorite. I'm in love with the sixth chakra, and I'll tell you why. The sixth chakra most intimately associates and connects into the pineal gland. Most people are not familiar with the pineal gland, but I think that the coming years, we are going to hear so much information about the pineal gland that it's going to be overwhelming. Now, here's what I'm going to share with you. The pineal gland is no bigger than my pinky fingernail. It's about 6 millimeters. And it's in the shape of a pine cone. Okay? And it sits at the very back of the third ventricle of the brain. So I love this, as we send the energy up through our vertical channel, the pineal gland is the only gland that's centrally located. So the energy has no choice but to come straight up and bombard that center. Okay? And what's so cool is that just literally the medical science within this last year, they are starting to be able to identify which bundle of nerves that sit at the base of the spine regulate consciousness. So if scientists can show which nerves are regulating consciousness, artificial intelligence can come in and put a chip in to stimulate those areas of the brain. Now, I'm not saying I'm in favor of that. What I'm saying is that I'm in favor of all of us using what we know to be true through meditation and breath work and body work, that we can send that energy straight up into the pineal gland and stimulate the entire the circuitry for consciousness. I love that. I love that. Most intimately, you can be connected through clairvoyance and your ability to be able to see. Clairvoyance is different for all people. I have colleagues, good Lord, I wonder how they see half the things that they see, and the details and the colors and the descriptions that they get. And quite honestly, I consider myself to be clairvoyant, but not in that way. I see truth. I see frequency. It's completely different. So the pineal gland, as it relates to the central nervous, as it relates to the cerebral spinal fluid, the aqueous solution that covers the brain, encases the brain, all the crevices, covers the entire cranium, comes all the way down through the spinal canal, provides all the nutrients that your central nervous system needs. So all of those brain patterns, the beautiful brain patterns that we have, the belief systems that we acquired this lifetime, the belief systems that we acquired from our ancestries, from past lives, from you name it, from the universe, all of that is stored and can be accessed by stimulating that sixth chakra. Love it. Love it. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? That's a lot of information right there. You may have, and tomorrow, you may sleep tonight and have crazy dreams, and tomorrow you have insights about some of the things we talked about tonight. And trust me, I will be available. Just send me an email and we can chat all you want on it. Yes, I saw a hand. Please.
Victoria, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, if you go down to the bottom left of your screen, you're going to see.
Thank you. So can you just say one way that we can start to stimulate it more? Is there one kind of simple way you can tell us?
Yes. So if you have a thumb and you take your thumb and you look out at your thumb going away from you, the distance away from your body, bring the finger back in and imagine, clearly you can't physically see it, but I'm asking you to intuit it. Feel the thumb going away from your body and coming back through the brain, this way, watch, come back, this way, watch, and come back. And that helps to develop a more 360 panoramic view for clairvoyance. And then another way is just simple palming, a simple act of palming. And in a dark room with your eyes completely sealed, open your eyes in the darkness, complete dark, and that should help also stimulate some clairvoyance. Anytime I can get my forehead on a mat, anytime I can get my forehead on Mother Earth, I do it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
So the seeing clearly there is meant literally or metaphorically or both?
Both, I think. For me, yeah, it's different for all people, but clear seeing for me is intuitive.
Mm-hmm. That was my first thought, but then when you mentioned the eyes, I was like, oh, maybe it's a literal thing as well.
Yeah, they it can be a literal thing because the cells of the rods and cones, I mean, so the information comes into the eyeballs, and once it goes through, there's an optic nerve that crosses. And the same rods and cones that you see within the eyes are going to be remnants within the pineal gland. And they can diagnose this in reptiles. And they can also, melatonin is a hormone that is produced by the pineal, which regulates light and dark. And so these reptiles were able to navigate, even though they couldn't see very clearly, they could see light and dark, and they could navigate where they wanted to go. So they had a greater developed pineal gland than what humans do. Isn't that cool? Okay, so the seventh chakra. You guys know what it's all about. It's the enlightened one. It sits literally at the crown of the head. It's a very sensitive and sacred chakra. Personally, when I'm doing work with my clients, I invite them and their spirits to do the work with the seventh chakra because that's a spiritual contract area. I don't interfere, or I just hold space and hold suggestions. The crown chakra comes straight into the pituitary gland, which is the master regulating hormone gland. So the pituitary gland regulates all the other hormones that we talked about. It regulates the pineal, it regulates the thymus, it regulates the pancreas and the ovaries and the testes and the adrenal system. So as we go through the expansion of being connected and unified with all that is in the development of the spirituality and direct knowing, that's what the seventh chakra is all about. So again, when I invited you to look at the chakra systems as being an evolution or various layers of consciousness, we've reached the peak. So beautiful, beautiful sacred space. It's where we enter as a spirit, and is also where we exit when we're done. Does anybody have questions about the seventh?
Yes. So how do you calibrate that one? And can you talk about that? Opening it. And...
Yeah. How? Let me ask you guys as a group. So, how many of you enjoy spending time outside of your body? A lot. To the point where there's like a spiritual bypass. It's like, oh, this body, what body? You just kind of live somewhere out here and not necessarily grounded down into Mother Earth. So that means that calibration is typically overexpanded. When I guide, when I'm working with clients, typically I have them calibrate down to about 10% open. And let me tell you, 10% open is really scary for a lot of people. Very scary for a lot of people, especially people that have trauma stored within their central nervous system, or that they're imbalanced, their autonomic system is dysregulated. It's uncomfortable. So to really invite your spirit to enter in and to fully inhabit your physical body, that is a blessing. And I do remind people that the greatest spiritual transformation occurs when you're fully embodied. So there are people that are spiritually enlightened that, just don't want to deal with the physical world, and I do believe that there are some enlightened people that perhaps have transcended that, but for the most part, for us normies, for us people still here, we still need to be tethered into this physical body and connected into Mother Earth. Now there are times when I'm doing some meditations that I do grant myself the expansion of blowing open through my seventh, but it's only been recently that I'm allowing myself to do that again because I had to work so hard to get back into my body. Yes, please.
So I experience waking up with knowings, quite frequent, and I'm saying a pretty high percentage pan out, and it seems to me that during sleep I must be leaving. I must be opening that up a bunch. What do you think about that?
I think you're spot on. I think that that's common and people don't realize that it's common. And I've had conversations with people that believe that you can astrally travel out of any chakra. However, it seems to be, for some people, easier to leave out of the seventh, but because that's how you enter in and you leave through, it's too much of a spiritual death every time that you do it. So then it's been advised to train to leave in and out of the third chakra when you go into astral traveling at night. Now, you said something so key in that you said you're gathering information, and I do believe that we do. We do gather information. We're gathering information all the time, and that's, for me, that's part of the reason that I'm starting to open and expand out and to allow myself that seventh opening again so that I can acquire more information. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just don't think that most people are grounded enough to do it. I love traveling. Do you journal?
No, it's I know I really wish I had been for like the last 5 decades. But yeah, for all my life I should have been. I just don't have the habit of doing it, and it's something to work on.
I'm sure you have a plethora of wisdom to share. Yes.
I'm not sure if that was me or someone else. I was just curious with decision making, if that's one of the lenses that I'm looking through right now in my life. And so when we got to the sixth chakra, I was like, oh, that seems to relate a lot to the decision making. But I can also see that the seventh would. I could also see that maybe some of the lower ones would as well in some ways, like maybe the solar plexus chakra related to willpower and things like that. I was just curious if you could share any wisdom about decision making through the lens of the chakras.
Yes. And it's a brilliant question. Thank you for asking. So the front part of the sixth chakra is all about the analyzer, the frontal lobe. I mean, goodness gracious, you guys, how much gratitude do we have for our ability to process and to excel in this world and through education and through information. So, and most of us sit so far into the frontal aspect that we never can really sink further back into more of the posterior regions of intuition. So really the goal would be able to be in both places at once. You're to be able to analyze and intuit simultaneously. And the way that I suggest that people do that is they take this brilliant, huge frontal lobe screen that they run all this data, all this information on that they're trying to analyze, and shrink it and shrink it and shrink it and shrink it. And imagine having like a big drive-in theater screen, and then you have a big screen TV, and then you have a computer, and then you have a cell phone, and then you have a microchip. And every time you compress that energy, the CPU, the processing unit, gets faster and faster, so that you don't have to analyze all the information. It gets processed at a speed that you can then flip back into the intuitive aspects, flip back into where that pineal gland and that hypothalamus and thalamus region is, so that you can be in a state of intuition and receiving information beyond our typical five senses, and connected to our analyzer.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, I see more hands. You guys, I apologize. I'm not calling you by your first name, but when I scroll over you on the screen, I can't get your name, and I don't know everybody's names yet.
I had a question that I may have missed about your training or acquisition of knowledge regarding chakras, etc. And I sort of missed that part about how you acquired all this knowledge. I have sort of a different background and different training particularly about the directions of the chakras. But in general, it's similar, but the directions and the energy, the way the chakras work energetically, a little bit different. So just kind of curious about that.
Sure. And as I've done my research, I can honestly say each book I read, literally each book I read, each author has a different viewpoint. And so when I assimilated this, I just want to give credit that I can't say with 100% conviction, there are truths in what I read in various different literatures that I look for. My training comes from the Academy of Intuitive Medicine in Sausalito, California. And then I also did additional training with a branch off of Barbara Brennan years ago as well. So those are my two most influential formal training when it comes to chakras. Hopefully that helps. But I've been influenced by a lot of different authors and a lot of different books.
Yeah, thanks. That's kind of generally a lot of people get them from different places, and some of it is just plain old intuitive. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Great. The one question that typically comes up in I know we're right out of time, but people wonder how it is that remote healing can be done if it's not hands-on healing. And I think it may have been Daniel at the beginning who was talking about the silver lining of the pandemic and being able to connect with people all over the world. And I'm very, very thankful that the training has forced me to work remotely. During the first week of the lockdown, I was in London and had an opportunity to connect with people in France and in Australia and within South America. And all it requires, and all of us have the capacity through training and through discipline to open and expand our awareness into the universal consciousness, into the quantum field, to be able to, it doesn't matter if a person is sitting right next to you or if a person is halfway around the world, it's the same field. So information as you receive it from an intuitive standpoint is not, the frequency doesn't, it's not linear, it's not like it's not like it's just not linear. So that's just a little, people typically ask that.
Can I add to that?
Yes, Daniel.
I've been in a training for a number of months that is working at a distance. It's somebody who is a craniosacral therapist and is doing trainings at remote work with people, not craniosacral, but more in a base level of self-inquiry and somatic intelligence. And the whole training is based on staying in your body, both parties, and at all times, and then seeing how you can connect but the first order of business is always staying in your bones, staying in your pelvis, staying in your chest. The moment you leave that, you lose the technique. And so it's really fascinating to have the direct experiential evidence of people are acknowledging connection with each other while we're all staying in the center of our bodies. It's mind-blowing.
Mhm, mhm. Same principle, just staying grounded, staying connected into Mother Earth, having that spiritual connection or that physical connection. That's fascinating. I love it.
So Mary, we're at the end of our time. Did you have something you wanted to say to wrap up?
I don't, other than I did want to share how you can make contact with me. There is information about my direct email and my website. I try to do educational videos to I believe education is empowering. So I want more people to be educated about these topics. So on my social media, it's primarily all about education.
Okay.
So, and if I can assist any of you, please let me know.
Well, thank you, Mary. That was very interesting. I learned a lot tonight.